So how'd you like that intro? Looks good, huh? We're pretty happy with it. So it's been a week. I know everybody's been asking, hey, did you fly it yet? No, there's still a lot of things to do. So quite honestly, after the inspection last week, we had a list of about 25 items that we needed to work through this week, some of which went quickly, some of which took some time. And we'll go through all of them, but we'll talk about some of them. Last time, trying to keep the video a little short, even though it went on a little long, preparations for first engine run, there's a lot going on there. One of the things I would encourage everybody to do, those who are finishing, is use the test card booklet. Okay, it will walk you through certainly a lot of the things I missed talking to you about, but some of the things I did. And I think one of the things isn't even in the book that I always do, and that's pre-oil the engine prior to that first start. It's very easy to do. You want to be careful, make sure nobody's around, but pull all the spark plugs out, tops and bottoms, and then leave your ignitions off, and then just crank the starter. Make sure you've got oil in there, in the crankcase. And it'll take maybe 20, 30 seconds or so. You're not going to hurt the starter. I know some of you are wondering, hey, it says only run the starter for 20 seconds. We're not putting a real load on this starter with the plugs out. It's just spinning. Actually, it'll spin at around 120 RPMs. And it'll take some time to fill the oil cooler and the oil filter and all that stuff. It's probably going to move a couple quarts in and around there. And then all of a sudden, oil pressure will come up. We had about 50, 52 PSI on this one. And I did 2 runs like that, cranking it, let the oil pressure bleed down, then run it again. So that gives you a very high level of confidence that you're going to have oil pressure when you make that first engine run. And it does pre-oil everything without, all the combustion stuff going on. A lot of things are happening on that first engine start. And so if you forget to look at that oil pressure, you're going to buy yourself an expensive engine, right? So this eliminates that. And some of the other things I did, like you can check your ammeter. If you go through the test cards, and these are the appendice cards prior to first flight in the EAA flight test manual, it has you calibrate all your instruments and checking everything. One of those is the ammeter. And it's kind of hard to tell what the ammeter is doing until the alternator is running, which requires the engine to be running, correct? So one of the things you can do, if you saw in the intro, I have a power supply back there in the baggage compartment. I think I shared that with you on a prior video. This time you could see it plugged in, and we had the instruments all powered up for you to see it. It makes it very easy to spend time in the cockpit, calibrating all the gauges, getting used to the instruments, making certain they're all working. And back to that ammeter gauge, you could take that power supply, which I did, and connect it right at the alternator, main alternator B lead. Of course, the cowling's got to be down. And now your ammeter is going to read, and you can compare it to the gauge on the power supply. So I ran everything working. We got about 30 amps, et cetera, kind of. And that's what I'm used to seeing in the last airplane. So I know everything there is working really, really well. Now, some of the things you can't do till you start up the engine is check oil pressure and check your alternator voltage. This one did in fact require some adjustments. It was running around 14.6, 14.8 at pretty good RPM after the batteries reached a charge. So I've turned that down to 14.3, 14.4. That's a pretty good range there for the EarthX battery. Again, the appendice cards up front, I think they go all the way through D, will walk you through a lot of this stuff, doing your magnetometer calibration. In our case, we're in the Class B. We're actually underneath the Class B of Atlanta. So we have to have a transponder check before we can make that flight. That's all been done. So that's all been taken care of. So Carol managed to get the rest of the interior finished. I don't know if you wanted to highlight there, Carol, and show. She's really happy, I think, with the way the doors came out.
So we like to have the inside of the door upholstered, and it was a little bit different than the last airplane because Vic installed this channel with the door seal on it. And so we had to make a new template, and that took about 10 hours over 2 days. But we got it done, and I'm real happy.
And it's all about Carol being happy, right? So anyway, speaking of which, yeah, today could be the day. There's a few things to go through yet. We did the fuel tank calibration. By the way, if you remember, these are the extended range tanks from Sky Design. So I put two floats, one at the far end and one at the root. And if you think about the dihedra on the airplanes before, when only one float at the root, the actually fuel tank gauge would stop reading somewhere around 2/3 full, so around 20 gallons in a 30-gallon tank. With the float now at the far end, which was really neat, is it calibrated all the way to 41 point something gallons. So I'll be anxious to see how that works in flight. I don't think it'll be completely linear out there with both floats working, but you're going to get a reading now. So that's exciting. And speaking of fuel, I calibrated it to 41 point something gallons in each tank. So it's a total of about 82 gallons. That's really nice. I don't know how often we'll use that much fuel. And no, I'm not going to take that on the first flight. So today we're going to offload maybe 20, 25 gallons of fuel and do a normal, pretty much a full tank. And you want to make that first flight somewhere in the middle CG range. So I've already put a 50-pound weight back there in the baggage compartment. And one of the other things I recommend for new owners of RV-10s making first flights is stick a case of water back there in the baggage compartment. I will do that as well. It's a little different here, having our hangar at home, but for those of you who are at the airport, if you put a case of water back there, it acts as really good balance. And typically when you land, it's hot, and take a drink of water, and over time, you're going to start to reduce the weight in that baggage compartment just by drinking the water. And then you'll get used to that center of gravity shifting more forward. The RV-10 with one pilot, full fuel, takes quite a bit of, almost full trim there in the flare on final. And so it'll help you get used to that. It's like a Cessna 182 on final for those of you who might have some 182 time. So let's talk a little bit about first flight prep. I talked about all the things we had to do to get through this appendices here in the book. We're through those now. So today, special day. It's actually our 49th wedding anniversary. I told Carol I'd try and get it done. We got the last RV-10 done for Christmas, and I put a bow on it. So, but as luck would have it, one of the things about first flights are, one, don't rush getting there. It's about the weather as much as it is the airplane and the pilot. So we're looking for, one, winds that favor the runway we want to use. We have 725 here, a little more populated areas off of the runway 7 than there are taken off on 25. It looks like the winds today are going to give us that choice. It's actually nice and cool today. We're joking that it's a June day in Cleveland. We woke up to 52 degrees. And as much as I'd like to make that first flight first thing in the morning, the grass is wet. So you want to be thinking through that. If we have to make an abort, wet grass is not a good idea. One of the other things that you're supposed to do on your before your first flight is brake in your brakes. Pardon the pun there, but you want to seat the pads on the brakes. That's really hard to do on wet grass. And another reason is I don't advocate a lot of taxi tests before first flights. I intend to set those brake pads as much as I can on the taxi out for the first takeoff. This engine really doesn't want a lot of ground time. So only ground time, we had a couple engine runs as per Jimmy Broad's instruction checklist there. And then a couple of high power runs, 3 or 4, I think, to set the low pitch stops. We got about 2640, 2660 on those now, so that should work well. And, before I make that first flight, I will be suited up. Flight suit, all cotton for first flights. Fire extinguisher here. Carol will have a fire extinguisher. We don't put the word out for first flights. We don't want a whole show. No pressure to make that first flight. We'll wait for good weather. I intend to sit in the airplane for a couple of hours today before I fly it, going through some scenarios in my own head and practicing through those. I've written about that, I think, in a Kit Planes column. For those of you who might want to go back and read that. Just making certain that if something were to happen, what are the emergency flows on the checklist to do? Should have those committed to memory. And just because it's a single engine general aviation airplane doesn't mean we shouldn't treat it like any other aircraft. First flights are kind of serious. Not expecting anything. We haven't had any problems with the engine to date with all the engine runs. And so again, it's about the pilot, the aircraft, and the weather. So by the time you watch this, the deed should be done. Can't think of anything else to tell you about today unless the camera person here, Carol's got some thoughts.
So yes, there's 3 things.
Okay.
The first 2 have to do with the strap that's hanging behind you.
Yeah, this makes it very easy to pull this door down while you're in the cockpit or outside, because you can see you just can't reach it, okay? And it's just very simple to attach this strap with a PK screw, goes right into the door. That works very nicely.
The next one is the handle in the back.
Oh yeah, right there above the rear window. Putting those little handles there, you get them from the aviation department online, I think.
At Lowe's.
At Lowe's, okay. And, you know, they're just attached from the outside. It's just, they're not, you know, you're not going to hang off of those handles, but they do give you some nice stabilization getting up and down from the RV-10.
Especially the older we get.
Yeah, it's true.
And the third thing is a little bit of warning. We recommended the SoneFlow paint booth.
Inflatable paint booth. And
Yeah.
I just got to tell you, I think I may have mentioned it, that the floor on that thing really bled through and really, really disappointed. We've spent a lot of money on this floor over the years. It's held up very nicely with the rather expensive Sherwin-Williams Rexthane paint. And the floor on that booth really bled through more than we expected, and the floor's got to be redone. So my words to you are, maybe not buy a SoneFlow, but to do it again, I'd put an extra tarp underneath that paint booth to protect your floor for those of you who have painted floors. You did a nice job. The paint came out pretty good for this amateur painter here.
And we did not get any overflow. All the airplanes were in the hangar at the same time, but it did mess up the floor.
Yeah, using the elephant got rid of even the fumes. We didn't get anything into the house. It was an overspray in the hangar, so that worked out really, really well. Anyway, I want to thank all of you for watching. This is a pretty exciting journey for us, and today should be pretty exciting. Right now, it looks like we are ready to go, so sometime today, I think I'm being roped into cooking lunch first for our special day, and maybe we'll get this done a little later, and you'll see another video either today or tomorrow. Thank you.